Greetings, gamers, and welcome to Season 6, Episode 10 of Ropai Gamma, the Gamers Podcast. I am your GM, Byron, and of course with me is my co-host, Howard.
Greetings, everyone.
So, Thanksgiving!
Yeah,
this episode will be posted sometime around Thanksgiving.
We are coming up upon the dead zone of gaming, which is the holidays, because anything from about a week before Thanksgiving to about New Year's,
Rarely, if ever,
not to say that
happens.
you don't game during that time, but regularly scheduled games. Yeah, I know. Regular scheduled games get screwed regularly. Tis the season of scheduled death.
Oh yeah.
And I would be surprised if for statistical analysis to determine if more games die during the month, basically November, December, January, than any other time.
Yeah.
Just because.
Oh, go ahead.
No, just because, I mean, this is the time where you start going 2 and 3, sometimes longer than that, no games, just because, I mean, schedule during the holidays sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough trying to get families together, much less gaming groups. But it's interesting you mention that, because the topic I'm going to bring up is somewhat related along those lines.
Oh, cool. Well, speaking of other stuff, I did, scheduling wise. We are doing Life Day this year, actually. It's Life Day is happening, and apparently it's going to be a blowout. Oh, yeah, we're having Life Day, the 12th of December.
Who's we?
Oh, well, my wife's on board this time. The last couple of years, my wife has been really kind of nonplussed about Life Day. But this year, for some reason, she's just all on board. She's wanting to do cakes and all sorts of. I don't know. I guess I just won her over.
Dude, bug.
Yeah.
That's probably just say, that changes the. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, let's see, what's changed in the last year or so?
True, and also this year we're doing a family friendly. We're going to start this year. Everyone's bringing their kids. We're doing a fall festival, a Star Wars themed fall festival for the kids.
Yeah. For those listeners we have that may or may not know what exactly Howard is talking about when it comes to Life Day.
Oh yes.
The fabled Star Wars holiday special that actually aired, I believe it was before the first movie.
Yes, I think
it was kind of a promotional thing. And it's the one thing Lucas swears up and down he wishes he could forget and had never made.
Well, look at this. I just saw a sort of a special, and in which they asked Lucas, in the promo, it was a promo for the new movie, and they asked him what character, if he could be from Star Wars, he would be, and he said Jar Jar Binks. This is what Lucas said. If he could be any Star Wars character, it'd be Jar Jar Binks. So, this is the man who could choose any character in his own universe, and he picked Jar Jar Binks. This is the movie that he denies.
Yeah,
consider that.
That should really tell you something right there.
That's exactly when I saw that. I'm like, wow. So now when I describe it to people, I'm like, the man who prefers Jar Jar Binks to any other character in his own universe has tried to destroy this movie to make sure that it never saw the light of day.
Yep.
That tells you how bad it is. Anyway,
after it aired.
Oh yeah. So anyway,
and of course there was, if you watch the music video for Weird Al's White and Nerdy, it actually shows him doing a back alley deal, and then he pulls out of the paper bag a VHS that says Star Wars Holiday Special. It is literally almost that hard to actually get a hold of a decent copy of this thing, because Lucas has tried his damnedest.
So for those of you who wish to get a copy of this, there's only one reputable seller. It's called On the Run Video. On the Run Video, man, they scoured the world, and they found it and I could be wrong. I talked to the guy who got it. It was there was this TV station in Minnesota. I say Minnesota, it could have been somewhere else, but in the middle of nowhere, it's TV station in Minnesota that had an original reel in the can, and the way it worked back then was the stations bought the rights to the because they made for TV movies, they bought the rights to that film, whatever, and so they actually had one in a can, and it quite literally fell behind. It actually was in their storehouse for all of their this was all real stuff, and this is back in the 70s, and the can fell back behind a shelf.
Oh, wow.
So when Lucas was coming through, when his jackbooted thugs were coming through and confiscating them all, buying them all back, or doing however they got them, this one they missed it. Well,
nice.
This company looked up every TV station that had aired the holiday special and went station by station physically went to each station and asked permission to examine their archives. And in one station in the middle of freaking nowhere, they found a dusty can that fell behind it was like metal shelves. He told me the story. They literally reached back. They were looking for it, and they got the flashlight and they looked back and they saw a can behind the shelves, and they pull it out, and sure enough, it was a holiday special, and they bought it off it, and it was it was a master copy.
Oh,
which meant that the On the Run video is actually pulled from a master reel. It's not a reel of a reel or a copy of a VHS. It's actually pulled from the master. So, On the Run video is the only place that I know that you can get a master copy, basically a digitized master copy of the holiday special. It's what I have.
Yep. I have not. Well, okay. I have watched it, but I haven't. And I say that because I haven't just watched it, I actually watched it. A guy. He's done various.
Yes, I've seen it.
Commentaries of, and he did one of the holiday special, and that's how I've seen it.
Yeah,
and that was enough.
I've seen this. I've seen the holiday special, I think, at this point a dozen times now, which probably goes to explain a lot of my mental health issues.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Actually, last year the holiday special, they got
willfully have watched this a dozen times. Makes me question your sanity there a bit.
So last year at the Life Day party, we were airing it, and they got about halfway through when they couldn't handle it anymore. They paused the video, went down to the liquor store, came back, loaded for bear, got liquored up, and then continued to watch. They couldn't make it through the entire thing. So
if I was ever to watch it again, that's probably what I would have to do from the off.
So anyway,
I have watched it to say that I have watched it, but
so Life Day. So anyway, the Star Wars Holiday Special was supposed to be their Christmas special, but they actually came up with a holiday called Life Day. It's actually supposedly a Wookiee holiday, but whatever. Anyway, but Life Day is not. I mean, it does have a lot of Christmas themes to it, but it also has some Thanksgiving themes to it. So what I did years ago, when I came back to Georgia, I decided to have a gamer party and call it Life Day, and it falls between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's not a set date, but it's usually the end of November or the beginning of December. And what I do is I gather all of my friends, and I bill it as this is the holiday part. This is the holiday party, or this is the family holiday that you wish you had. Because every time you go to a family holiday, there's drama, and then there's all that baggage. And there's always a feud going. There's all that crap, that stress and all that crap. You got to dress up and be nice to people. This party is just gamers and friends, and our families. We get together. It's really low key. It's a potluck, so nobody has. It's not like your mom has to cook a meal for 35 ungrateful people. This is a potluck where everyone brings something to it, and typically bring our own beverages. Alcohol is allowed, but it's not required. We get together. We play games. By games, I'm not talking about stupid like pin the tail on crap. I'm talking about we play like Cards Against Humanity. It's the one that we play a lot.
Yeah.
You don't like that game?
No, I don't. Well, okay. You know what? I'm gonna have to explain that one later. That's gonna take the whole bloody episode if I try that one. But I do not. I don't have feels for it. So yeah.
Well, we do because
hey, more power to you.
The group that I play with, it's a lot of fun, and Ricky's in it, dude. Ricky's sense of humor is just smashing.
Well, like Liz and Puff and Miri and all of them, they love it too. I
understand. I get
Cards
it.
Against Humanity. Yeah.
But anyway,
sorry, Liz is in the room with me. So.
Flux, Cards Against Humanity.
Flux. I'd be down for some Flux.
And that's the thing is people bring card games, board games, or whatever, and we play those. We eat good food, and then of course there's the annual viewing of the holiday special, which the only time you have to see it is if you've never seen it. So we'd love to bring virgins in and like put them down front, and we love to
destroy their psyches.
We love to horrify them with like all the tales about it, and then they laugh because they're like, it can't be that bad. And afterwards, like, oh my god, it was so much worse than I thought. And I was like,
us cracking jokes on it ain't doing it justice. Although the whole Lucas wanting to be Jar Jar Binks, that comes close.
So anyway, I thought so. I personally, that's my favorite. I got an analogy or whatever. But anyway, for anyone who's asking, that's it. And it's the Life Day is an actual holiday in the holiday special. But we do it as this is a gamer holiday. It's a holiday for us to get together. It's non-religious or neutral religious. It's not a religious holiday. It's kind of like Thanksgiving. it's just a time to gather and to appreciate the friendship, and it is the social side of gaming without the actual, like, anyone having to prepare a game. That's why we play card games. We play things that we can do communally together and have a good time and a good laugh, that we can be drunk doing it because a lot of people are drunk at the party. But it's just a time for good fellowship and good food and to get together and just to decompress and relax. And I usually do it between Thanksgiving and Christmas because, A, that's the time that it actually is in, like, really in the movie. But 2, it's a good time because, you know, with all the other stressors and during the holidays, because, I mean, you've got family and you've got, you know, travel and you've got money issues. I mean, because it's the end of the year, and then, of course, you've got, you know, presents and all that crap going on. It's a good time just to get together with friends and laugh and joke around with people who don't give a crap. Actually, I'm probably going to wear pajamas this year. Like, I think I'm going to wear my Star Wars pajamas with my my Jedi robe, bathrobe. I think that's how I'm going to go. Which tells you basically how low key this is. I mean,
Yeah.
people are more than welcome to wear pajamas. We'd prefer that you at least have pants on. But there's not actually.
You said it yourself. You're trying to be family friendly, so that does have a level of decor to it.
True, but I mean, boxers, I guess. I mean, if they're tasteful, as long as they button, because the ones that don't could be a little accident. But
Well, yes.
yeah. Have I told you about my friend who
I don't think I want to hear this.
we went over to his house. No. So Jen and I went to his apartment, and there's a bunch of them living together. This was in Athens, and so he was in the back sleeping because he had worked a night shift, and so I was there, Jen was there, and all of his roommates were out there. We're talking, laughing, joking around. Well, he wakes up around like 1 o'clock because he's on the night shift. And he comes into the kitchen just expecting to go ahead and grab something to drink, and he walks out in nothing but boxers, and he's like yawning. He's like, "Oh, hang on, come in."
Hi, Ricky.
Anyway, he comes in wearing nothing but boxers. He's totally yawning. He walks out of the living room just yawning, eyes closed, and he like stretches his arms. He opens his eyes. There's like 7 people just staring at him in his boxers, and he freezes, and he looks around the room, and he's like, "So we have company, huh?" And his roommate's like, "Yep." He goes, "Man, you should put some pants on." And he just turns around and walks out. And his boxers didn't button. It was pretty funny. Anyway. But yes, Life Day, we are having Life Day this year. We managed to schedule it around everything else.
Well, good luck with that.
So, what have you been doing in gaming, if anything?
Unfortunately, nothing since we last recorded. Didn't have Karma game this last Friday because one of the players wanted to kind of take a break, and I'm all for that. And then I canceled my Sunday game because I needed a day to rest because I'm still dealing with this bronchitis, as you can hear. Although I do think I am getting better finally.
Oh, good.
And Liz actually wanted me to go with her and taking Amanda back because we had Amanda for the weekend again.
Oh, cool.
So, which that was actually a really good car trip. I would actually have to say because, yes, except for the Denny's. Yes, we unfortunately had a rather bad experience at a Denny's.
I'm sorry.
Well, it was what, around 7 o'clock at night on Sunday. They weren't that busy, but apparently they were severely short-staffed. Like, there was one cook and one manager in the back. That was it.
Wow.
And then they had like, 2 waitresses and a waiter, and that's it. And I'm having been a waiter myself a couple of times. I'm really thinking that the waitress might have been relatively new. Either that or whenever she wasn't actually bringing something out to the table, she was back in the back helping them. It is the only explanation for the lack of service that we had. I mean, she was nice and everything, but just, yeah. I mean, we were there like almost an hour and 45 minutes. And like I said, they were not busy. So there was like really, aside from the fact of only having one cook and a manager in the back, there was really no excuse for the lack of and then when we got the food, there were a couple issues with it too. But at that point, we were just like, let's just eat and go.
I'm sorry, dude.
So, Yeah, and I feel kind of bad because I was the one that picked it. So Liz was just like, well, and I'm just like, yeah, but I realized I couldn't have known, but I felt kind of bad. So, but
Well, I have done some gaming.
well, do tell then.
Actually, this past Sunday, I actually did my Shrine Tower campaign. We were on hiatus for a little bit, 2 weeks actually, because I had my wife's birthday and my daughter's birthday. So we came back from hiatus. It was one of those weird games. Like I kind of going into it, I kind of knew what I wanted.
Wait. Sorry. This just
What's
dawned
wrong?
on me. Your wife's birthday and then your daughter's birthday are within a week of each other.
Oh yeah,
You
And then
are
Christmas.
so screwed.
I know. Yes, I am. And it's an issue.
Okay. I just wanted to wanted to say
No,
that.
you're
Please
right.
continue.
You are right. Anyway, so what ended up happening was I had this thing. I had an idea. Do you ever go into a game where like you got so much going on in your life, so you sort of come up with an idea in the back of your mind. You sort of have like, because some games you go in, you like balls to the walls, like I know exactly what's going to happen. You have notes and script or whatever. But then there are games where it's like it's one of those in between games where you want to achieve something, but you don't really have a huge game plan. And it's kind of one of those
Most of
games
my
where you're
games
going
are
kind
like
of
that.
loose.
So
Well, anyway, I had an idea of what I want to do, and there was a couple like basically there was a lot of like loose ends and threads that needed to be tied up before moving the plot forward. Because I had to finish up some loose ends over the fall period of time in the world. So I didn't wing it. I actually I had a plan, but it just wasn't a very firm one. So the game tended to ramble. Huh?
it was rather fluid.
It was very fluid. It tended to ramble a little bit. But that being said, it actually ended up being really, really good. The players really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, which is of course the key. What was really kind of funny is they had an interrogation scene, which was one of the worst interrogation scenes I have ever seen. It was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. But as far as effective interrogation, if they hadn't had like an adventure card to play, it would not have gone well. But they had an adventure card, which was sort of it wasn't an auto win, but it was a narrative win. So they got the information they needed. But the entire scene was during the interrogation.
You know what? I know we've done this on the podcast before too, but maybe even next episode, doing effective interrogations in an RPG are very difficult.
They are. Oh no, they are. I've given some serious notes on that because interrogations are something that I actually have experience with. But anyway, moving on. But yeah, no, but it was very interesting because during the interrogation, the actual interrogator, the person doing the player character doing the interrogation, he was trying to be serious, but it got so cocked up that the other player character spent the majority of it laughing. Because it was one of those situations where it just got stupid after a while. So it was good.
No one else could keep a straight face enough to keep the mood.
Right.
Yeah.
But actually, it
I
ended
get
up being really
quite a bit.
good. The game itself went really, really well, and we ended up getting. There were some really, really cool. A lot of really cool moments. I got home and I looked at my wife, and she's like, "How'd the game go?" And I thought about it, and all I could think was like, I am. And I don't mean to sound arrogant, but here it is. Like, I am a really good storyteller. Like, and let me explain why.
I would deny that, but yeah, please do tell.
Specifically, a lot of the characters. So what I'm doing is I'm using the cosmology of the world in a unique way. In that, because the way Savage Worlds works, because player death is so difficult to achieve. Like you pretty much have to go out of your way to kill one of the players. Just the way they handle. Fatalities and stuff like that, right? So the idea is that what I do, since I know they're not going to die, there still needs to be some sort of, there's got to be a consequence for,
risk.
Risk. So what I've done is I've used the cosmology in the sense where that if you're constantly dealing with flame and darkness, eventually you're going to get tainted. Just by the nature of the things that you're doing. And so Flame and Darkness and the other cosmological elements are beginning to have a deleterious effect on the player characters. Minor stat effects, but major storyline effects. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So anyway, so what I've decided, I'm using this as plot devices. Well, but tying it all together is difficult, especially on the fly, because, they're making decisions. But what I was able to do during this game is I was actually, in a number of cases, when the player characters were going to NPCs and that, religious or moral figures to give them advice on how to handle these situations, I was able to aptly tie the player character previous behavior, to the outcomes of the cosmological effects. For example, one of the guys was recently touched by Flame, and so Flame is all about passion.
Me about that.
Right, yeah. Flame is very Sith-like, very passion, aggression, anger, that sort of stuff. All right. Well, one of the scenes was he was talking to the bishop, the bishop of light, and the bishop was asking him. He's like, well, prior to. And I knew this in my head, that's why I did it. But I came up with it on the fly. As he was talking to the bishop said, what was your life like prior to this event? You say that you were marked during your battle with the demon, but your behavior beforehand, your life beforehand, was it a life of pious service? Well, this character had been he was a carousing drunkard who went to whorehouses.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he said that, then the priest aptly said, are you positive that the mark of flame occurred during your encounter with the demon, or did the demon just reveal what was already in your heart? And the whole room was just like, ooh.
You gotta love those moments, or everyone's just like, ooh.
Well, what I was able to do during these, for the player characters, not only were they getting advice from these moral figures, and they were actually using the NPCs of my world, and each NPC had I was able to speak in a different voice with a different advice. But more to the point, was very interesting was the fact is that I was able to really tie the loose threads together to make, to really make it impactful and emotional and cathartic for the player character and for the player. And it was there was not a lot of role playing, not role play. There's not a lot of rolling, and there was no combat, but it was a very story-wise, it was a very, very intricate and deep story. Very deep. As a matter of fact, at one point during one of the conversations, that's what the player character, that one of the players was like, man, this is getting deep. And when you can actually have like theological, emotional, and spiritual conversations that really engage the player characters in the middle of a game, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
So I thought it went well for that perspective, even if the storyline itself was a bit fluid, as you say.
Well, once again, you make me feel like a schmuck, you jerk.
What are you talking about, dude?
I like those moments in games. Now, granted, I don't know if it's because of my players, but I find it very difficult to try to even engineer moments like that, much less be able to really capitalize them. Also, because the last time I tried to do something like that caused friction amongst the players and myself, with each other as well as with me, as to the understanding and the nature of the Force, which, I realize that even, theologically that's a wide open thing to begin with, but
dude, that's my point. That's why I was really impressed by this particular game, because you're right. Those moments are very, very hard to. Very hard. It's very hard to create the environment that those moments can occur in, and especially on the fly. Yeah, right. That's why I'm saying I don't usually. This is not the norm for me. This was just one of those things where stars on the line.
With you, though.
Well, it's
okay. Bottom line, you do have to remember my view of you as a GM as well as your view on me.
Yes,
because we're always butting heads on that one.
I agree.
We've agreed to disagree as to who's the better GM to begin with.
Long and short, it was a very good game, but not in the way games are normally good, if that makes sense. There was almost no action.
It does.
There's almost no action. There's hardly any actual dice rolling going on. And most of the game, people spent just laughing their butts off because of, like I said, the interrogation got so bad. Even I was laughing at certain moments where, look, okay, so the guy was doing the interrogation was, I don't know whether he was trying to be that way or whether he just ended up being an absolute moron. Because he's not normally, like, he's normally like on point all the time, but this one thing he just could not do. But there's this one scene where he walks up to a warehouse, right? That's under guard, right? It's a secure warehouse, military warehouse, and he walks up and there's two dwarves guarding it from this one clan. Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. My thing said there's an internet glitch for a second, so I was going to pause. Anyway, so he walks up to the door. There are two dwarves, the guards, and he walks up to the dwarf and he says, "I'm looking for this warehouse." To which the dwarf kind of looks over his shoulder, looks back at the player character, and goes, "You found it." And the player character's like, "No, I'm looking for a specific warehouse." And the dwarf's like, "Well, do you have a number? Do you have any information?" He goes, "Yes, I have a map." And he just looks at him. The dwarf waits and waits, and partner, and waits. And the other player character goes, "I hand him the map." And the dwarf goes, "Thank you." He looks at the map where it says, here's, this is the warehouse, and it's the one behind him. He goes, "You found it." So he says, and at this point, the dwarf thinks obviously that the sergeant's drunk, and so the dwarf's like, "Do you need any help, getting into the warehouse?" And the sergeant's like, "Nope, I can operate a door." So the dwarf stands aside. So he walks up, starts jiggling the handle. Well, it's locked. Because it's a secure warehouse. So the two dwarves are standing there with this guy's jiggling the handle, and they're like, "Do you have a key?" And he's like, "No, I don't have a key. Open this door right now." What do you think he's trying to cover it up? But the point is, so the dwarves pretty much think either the man is retarded or he's drunk.
If not both.
If not both. But I mean, the whole scene was just, it was moment after moment with this guy. And it got funnier and funnier and funnier. The player characters are dying laughing. There's and so all seriousness was just gone.
Yeah.
So most of the game was just everyone laughing at the stupidity of one guy. Fortunately, I didn't lose complete control. I'm not going to say I didn't lose control. I didn't lose complete control.
Yeah. Schmuck.
So that's all I've been doing in gaming.
Schmuck. No. Pardon me. So, all right. Well, let's get on to topic then. If I can keep from hacking up a lung here. And what I was, it's and like I said, it's kind of interesting because we've skirted on this quite a bit already with all of this. Of course, with last episode we did GBUs for the Epic game.
Yes.
Which did you ever actually listen to the episode with everyone else? The one before that?
No, I'm actually going to. It's on my. I've just been really busy with work and life, but I might actually listen to it tonight if I have a chance.
Okay. So
this weekend was not conducive to doing anything.
Give me a
other than the one game.
Yeah, of course. So, okay. But last episode we did GBUs because I finally brought the Epic game to a close. And I love how you would ask me would I do it again? And I was like, hell yes. Not only just in general, but with that same campaign again, even. So I've actually been thinking, the 10 Seas game I've been doing with the Lucky 13 group here, the group I have in person. I haven't really been feeling it. And actually, in all honesty, I had started it up to be part of the reason why I wasn't very invested in it. This is the game where normally I say I'm going for Star Wars, but I get Spaceballs. Yeah. This is the one where I was shooting for Spaceballs. Because I wasn't expecting to get much seriousness out of this. And it was kind of meant to be kind of a joke game to begin with. It was meant to be just a kind of a placeholder game because one of the players was going to Georgia for military training and was going to be back for a couple of months. And this is when, we were right at the finale of the one Star Wars game we were doing. And then we had to put it on hold. Well, I was going to kick up this game to be kind of a placeholder until he got back. We were able to Skype finish that game, the Star Wars game, which was good. But then, this 10 Seas game was just supposed to be kind of a placeholder of things. And I actually had kind of forgotten about that. And last session that I did, which of course was the session right after ending the Epic game. I was not on my A game. I was barely on my C game. It was bad. And one of the players kind of called me out on it afterwards. Not during GBU specifically, but she did message me later and was just like, "What is everything all right? What's wrong?" She was like, "Because you are such a better GM than that. That was crap. What the hell?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not really feeling this game. Plus, she's like, I don't think it's just that. I think there are other factors involved." And I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right because." Yeah, like I said, I just ended the Epic game, and of course that was a big emotional, momentous event the night before. So, plus I had really kind of wanted to do the game in person again because we've been Skyping that game because of my bronchitis. Because the one player actually who was calling me out on things has a very funky immune system, and even though I don't think I'm contagious because no one else around me has really caught this. I really don't want to risk it with her because, she'd be the one in a million that would get it, and her having this would really screw her over. Plus her, she's the one that has the service dog.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of this, the service dog had gotten sick. Had eaten something he wasn't supposed to. And so the vet had, basically told her to, not a lot of excitement until the dog weathers through this. So that meant no one coming over for a while. And then of course I was like, well, that kind of works out because of this freaking bronchitis I've got, which just has not gone away. Though hopefully it is now. But so there have been a lot of factors kind of against this game. And again, it was kind of interesting. You brought up, scheduled death with the holidays coming up because I've actually been thinking about killing the game and starting up something new. And that's what's really kind of bringing us to the topic is what do you do to try to prepare for a new game, specifically one that you want to last. But not necessarily a marathon game like your Arrakis campaign, but one that you want to last at least a decent length of time.
So say it again.
Was I breaking up some?
No, say it one more time.
Okay. What do you do to prepare for a game? Well, I mean, what do you do when you prepare to start a new game in general? But also specifically, what do you do to try to prepare for one that you're that's not a short game? You're actually wanting it to be a decent length, not marathon length, not years upon years, but a decent, good story length game.
Well, one of the main things that I do when if like one shots are different. If I'm just doing like a one shot type thing, I don't even really prepare. I mean, those are just sort of wing it. I'll tell the player characters, make whatever the hell you want and we'll just run it. If I'm doing something where I want it to actually be for a period of time, the first thing is I'm much more careful about character creation in the sense that I try to ensure that there is some continuity among the characters that I mean, at the very least, they complement each other well. I look at what kind of adventures I would be planning to put them through, and I try to make sure that they have the bases covered as far as its skills and abilities, talents, equipment, whatever. And that's one of the first differences for me, because part of a good long running campaign is the unit has to perform as a unit. They need to have a variety of skills and abilities that will complement each other well. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing, if I'm actually going to be doing a longer running campaign, is world building is also much more important. And I've always said, color in the starting area and then pencil in the rest. It's one of my things that I tell GMs.
In inside out method. Okay.
Right. And so if I'm going to be running something along, for example, like with the Shintar campaign, I mean, I did a ton of work on Eshnaut to begin with. I mean, I I talk with my dad. It's actually based on a real place, believe it or not, somewhere my dad used to live in Europe.
Oh, cool. I think you might have mentioned
it's
that at one point, but
yeah, well, it's a combination of that place where he used to live in Madison, Georgia. Actually, it is. There's a lot of Madison in it. A small town feel.
That doesn't surprise me.
But anyway, the idea is that when I'm doing a long running campaign, I try very hard to world build more, specifically the starting place, because I figure that they will branch out from there. But I want the initial setting to be incredibly engaging and in depth, and to really, because what is it, you got to have a hook, you hook their interest quickly, and then you'll have them forever type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to get into if it's a longer running campaign, I don't want them to start off in a place where they feel that it's not well fleshed, because I feel that creates the plots are slow burn, but the initial hook needs to be good. It needs to really engage them quickly, so that they feel that this is a detailed world. And then the third thing that I do is I spend a lot of time and effort working on the NPCs in the beginning area. That's also really important. I spend a lot of time working on those, designing the people that will. So, for example, in Estronaut, so here the player characters are rangers, but there's a whole host of other positions within the community which need to be filled, like the Lord Mayor, the Sheriff, the Town Watch, that kind of stuff. And so it's very important to make sure that the part of fleshing it out is not just the physical descriptions and maps and things, but also to create a community. For example, in my Star Wars games, for example, let's say I was running a Star Wars campaign where they were like a rebel, a rebel unit, members of a special rebel squad. Well, then I would work very hard to, whatever their rebel training base was, or the starting planet, I would have well fleshed out. And then the commanders, the command structure, and any NPCs around that fill the other positions within the organizations would then be well thought out. And that's when if I'm running a long running campaign, those are the concerns that I have. Because what I really want them to do is I want them to be very, very engaged, personally engaged by the starting point of the game. Yeah, everyone, that's my daughter. She's exhausted. And she was asleep until Ricky came home. And now that Ricky's here, this is her trying to stay awake, everyone. Anyone who's not a parent will not recognize that sound, but any parent will know it immediately. That is baby's self-defense against sleep. If I keep making constant noise, I will keep myself awake. She's going to pass out because she can't maintain it for too long. But anyway,
still cute.
So those for me. If I'm designing a longer running campaign, I take a lot more consideration for the starting point. But what's interesting now, I know a lot with, like, for example, with your Epic campaign, you had a fairly definitive plot line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a sense. I mean, there's the ritual, the final battle against Darth Gorgonov. I mean, you had a pretty defined course for the game.
Right.
For mine, typically, I do it a little bit differently. I typically have, I do mine in arcs. Where I'll have multiple arcs leading up to like a meta arc, and each arc will be like a year or two as they go along. I don't necessarily always have a predetermined end point. What I do is I think up like longer term goals, like really long term goals for endpoint stuff, but it's very, very fluid. Then I think of the immediate commander or the immediate enemy, and I much more define that plot line, and I allow the course of the story to change the ultimate endpoint, modify it slightly as the players move forward, and I reveal successive villain, successive plot twists as I go along. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
My games are nonlinear, very nonlinear.
Yeah, whereas most of mine do tend to be. I usually have a very, like my most successful campaign, of course, is my Sith Council for Star Wars, because it's my longest running. That has usually a very definite beginning and a very definite end, whereas the middle tends to be a cluster. Because, there's a lot of threads that are going on all at the same time, and so I allow the players to explore which threads they want, but they're all going to eventually lead back to where I want them to. And it's interesting you brought that up because the reason why I'm asking is, of course, like I said, I'm thinking about shit canning the 10 Seas game and proposing, granted, not getting started until after the New Year's because, as we stated, holidays. But
what do you think about starting up a new campaign?
Yeah, I was thinking about starting up a little bit longer running game with this group. And I've got 3 options that I'm really kind of jazzed for right at the moment. One of which is to do the epic game with them. To try to do it with another group to see what kind of characters they'll make, what kind of decisions they'll make, how I'm going to, try to incorporate the overall, hunting down all the parts of the ritual and whatnot with their group, and how I'm going to run the cult and how they're going to do things this time over last time, that kind of thing. I'm really interested to kind of see how that pans out. But again, that's one that's got a very definite, chain of events that needs to happen. Some of the middle stuff doesn't have to happen in necessarily a specific order. But it does have a definite beginning and end. One of the other campaigns is my famed Broken Sword campaign. That was called the Cursed campaign up until actually members of this current group helped me break it last. And I know that some of them have been interested in wanting to, because even though we broke the curse, we still didn't finish the campaign. This campaign has been unfinished. And I know they've been itching. Every now and then they've mentioned that they'd really love to try to go back and try to finish it again. Although we'd have to start from the beginning because there's only 2 out of the original 5 or 6 players that's still in the group. And that game is, again, though it has it doesn't have as much of a finite end as, say, the Epic game or my Sith Council, because the finite end for the Broken Sword campaign is to well, it's actually up to the players, but usually the players decide to reconstruct the sword, to gather the pieces and put the sword back together. To what end? You know what? That's something I've never actually considered. Usually it's so that, well, I usually state that if you want to actually try to permanently destroy the sword, because the gods weren't able to do it, that's why it's broken, but there is a way, you have to put the sword back together first before you can permanently destroy it if that's what you choose. So the players usually have a chance of, they have to choose whether to reconstruct the sword or to at least try, because they find that other people are hunting the pieces as well. They have to either decide to try to put the sword back together, to either destroy it or keep it, again, their choice, or to at least try to hide the pieces, to try to at least keep the pieces away from the enemy. Usually they decide to reunite the sword, usually to keep the sword together, but again, we've never gotten that far. So I mean, there's the definite end of put the sword together, but that's about all the planning I've gotten from that far. And I know where all the pieces are in my world. And that's another thing to point out, because you mentioned world building. In the Epic game, of course, I created the world for Epic game when I ran it the first time. If I was to run it again, I think I would have more of a chance to put more depth to it than even what I did with you guys. And I'd like to think I put at least a good amount of depth to it begin with. Thank you. Because world building is one of my strengths. Of course, Broken Sword, the Sith Council campaign takes place in Star Wars. It's my longest game. That's fleshed out enough. Broken Sword takes place in Draco Tyrannida, which is my oldest fantasy setting. When I started doing Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy roleplay specifically, I started building Draco Tyrannida So that world is, again, already very fleshed out, but there are some areas that are just still kind of penciled in. Part of the reason why I designed the Broken Sword campaign the way I did was to try to force myself to have the players travel the world, therefore forcing me to flesh more of it out, because I put pieces in areas I'm like, I barely know what's going on over here. Let's put a piece there so that when they go after it, I'm going to have something. So, but then the third idea I've got is very unlike the others. It's a little bit more like yours. You know, how you say it's more non-linear. The third idea is, it's Star Wars based, but I really want to kind of take, and you might get a gasp / kick out of this coming from me. I've recently wanted to, you know how I tend to be very magic heavy.
Yes.
I like spellcasters. Most of my fantasy worlds are very high fantasy. There's a lot of magic running around. Though I've developed some worlds that aren't very high magic, I haven't really done much with them yet. Most of my Star Wars campaigns are very similar. They're very force heavy. I do have some that aren't, or at least they don't have to be. But, you know, the Sith Council campaign, just in its name, pretty much every time I've run the Sith Council campaign, people have asked, well, what kind of character should I make? The general consensus is, unless you want to feel like a tool, you need to be force sensitive to survive this campaign. But I'm really wanting to try to do a campaign that's not very force heavy, that's very force light. You know, like having a group of players that none of them are force sensitive, or if there is a force sensitive, they're a force sensitive and don't know it, so they don't have, like, you know, a lot of ability, would be great for what I'm trying to do. And I actually brought this up to Liz and Amanda on the road trip back, to take, you know, taking Amanda home, because both of them do a lot of freeform role play, and both of them, well, I know Liz is a writer, and I think Amanda is a bit too, and if not, she should be. Yeah, I posed to them, I was like, how would you guys deal with this? Because I took a look at the villains that I've got in my Star Wars universe, and I don't have a lot of them that aren't force sensitive, because most of my campaigns are force heavy. So they told me to take it a bit more of a Firefly Serenity angle of things. You know, yeah, you can be still hopping around the galaxy, but, you know, don't necessarily have to have the end game be to save the galaxy. It could just be, you know, just to keep flying. And I liked that idea, because I'd actually wanted to do a kind of Serenity-esque Star Wars game before. So, but I don't have anything planned of an end game, because to me, for a game like that, that'd be very character focused, and I don't know who the characters are going to be yet, because I haven't even pitched this to the players. So I don't know, you know, what kind of players, you know, what kind of characters they're going to want to make. So it's part of the reason why I brought this idea, is just, you know, I'm trying to figure out how, I mean, granted, I need to pitch the idea and see which one they're going to want to do and whatnot, but I'm already starting to think of how I'm going to try to prep for whichever they pick and what to do. And wow, that took a really long time to explain.
A little bit.
But
well, let me go with this. So I knew going into Shinetar that this was supposed to be a long-running campaign, right?
Yep.
So for example, it's been going on for just almost 2 years, and I set up the city that they started on, or the town they started in, Stout Eshnaut. I set it up very specifically with the Lord Mayor and the Sheriff Harkin, whatever. And each one of the NPCs was either an enemy or an ally, and you know, interact with the player characters. But I knew going into it that the motivations of the various NPCs were not necessarily what were readily available, or what was readily appeared to be. And so what I did is, there was a kind of a slow reveal. The player characters had the opportunity, as the game progressed, to learn more and piece more about the history and about the motivations and sort of like the goals of these NPCs. Well, just recently, I finished basically the first arc, and the first arc finished with them discovering that the Lord Mayor, who had been one of their staunchest allies, was in fact a villain. And
Really?
then oh yeah, the Lord Mayor,
Nice.
the Lord Mayor turned out to be a crime lord, or at least involved with crime lords, although suspected. They haven't actually proven that he was even involved at all, but they do know that he did flee the city right before an invasion, which in Alera is punishable by death. It's dereliction of duty.
Mm.
So at the very least, he's a deserter. But whether
If
or
not
not, but to the what?
If not traitor.
If not traitor. But see, the thing about it is Sir Halton, who is the sheriff, who has been a bane in their side, who actually arrested a number of the player characters at various times. I'm sorry, guys. She's just tired. She's being obnoxious.
That's all right.
Anyway, so but he actually turned out to be, if not, I mean, a hero. He may not like them, but he's not exactly a villain.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
He was doing his job.
Exactly. So going into the second story arc, I completely changed the dynamics of the town. I intentionally altered everything. There's a new Lord Mayor, there's new this, there's new that. So what I did is, for the first arc, they had a well-established relationship with everyone in the town. They knew who was friends, they knew who was foes. Now, I'm really sorry, guys. Like I said, she's exhausted, but she won't go to sleep because she's being.
Do we need to take a pause for you to try, or?
No, she's smart, and she knows that when I'm talking, I'm on the phone. So if I stop talking, she stops crying. She only cries when I'm talking. She's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
This is just what kids do. All right, anyway. So I completely changed everything in my town. So even though they're in the same city, even though they're, fighting, basically the same basic villains, now I completely, for example, they were, the King of Lowtown was a friend of theirs. So they were pretty much friends with the guy who ran he ran the Thieves Guild in Lowtown. He was, their informant. The Lord Mayor was their friend. The sheriff was their enemy. Well, I did the first arc, and almost 2 years in, I completely flipped the script. The Lord of Lowtown retired. The new guy is not their friend. The sheriff, who is still a dick, turns out to be an ally, and the Lord Mayor turns out to be an enemy and behind a lot of the bad things that happen to them. So in my games, that's kind of how I do it. I had all these things leading up to this climactic moment, and there's the climactic moment, and around the invasion of Flame, also they find out all these things about the people in the town. Well, now they're still in the same city, it's still an Echinot, but everything's entirely different.
Yeah.
So that's how I do these long running campaigns. Is that every so often I go through various arcs, and at the end of the arc, there's usually a major resolution, but that resolution also changes the dynamics of the game for the players. And it can actually even change the type of game they're playing. You might start out with, kind of like Serenity, where they started out as just keeping it flying, but then for the movie Serenity, it was kind of a save the world type thing.
Yeah, or at least put really stick it to the government. I can't remember what type of government it was. Yeah, the Alliance. There we go. Wow, it's been a while. So okay, so I actually had a question for you then.
Sure.
Given what you were saying, that you do to prep, especially for like what you just said about Echinot and the Shintar stuff. How long? Okay, so like with all three of my game ideas, if you think about it, there's going to be travel involved. There's actually a lot of travel involved. You remember how the Epic game was? You guys were all over the world. Granted, there were a couple of places you were constantly coming back to, but you had to travel the world. In fact, to get some of the elementals, I had to send you all to the far reaches of the world. With the Broken Sword, of course, like I said, the pieces have been scattered all across the world. Metagaming to try to get me to develop the world more in game, just because the gods felt it dangerous to have any one piece too close to another for fear of someone finding out what they were and wanting to put it back together. And then, of course, with a Serenity-based Star Wars game, even if I could keep it down to a sector, but to do traders and whatnot, you're going to have to do a lot of travel to get your goods to and from, or smuggling if you really want to go that route. So, with your whole thing of Inside Out, Game World developing in the terms of putting a lot of focus into the start, how would you adjust that for a game that travel is going to be necessary, if not almost a focus? With the fact that you might be starting them at a starting point, but they may not stay.
Well, I did a lot of Star Wars. Now, Star Wars is a ready-made universe, but I also use my own planets. And the way for me, it ended up being a lot about game prep, because if I knew they were going to travel, what I would do is I would have whatever. I'm sorry, guys. She's just being she's being obnoxious tonight. I mean, she has not napped in like 6 hours. She is about to pass out. Oh yeah, she's beyond tired. She's beyond tired, but she just won't sleep. Yeah. Sometimes they're like this.
Yep.
But anyway, so what I would do is, I have a starting area, and I would probably pick a couple of key ports for them to go to, that might be their starting ports, and then from that point on, I would develop things as they moved.
Okay. So basically, you would instead of putting a whole lot of focus into one starting point that they would be there for a while, you'd spread that focus out at least to a couple of different spots to then, to still get that travel, but then also to still have a lot of that focus to keep them hooked in.
I'm trying to get in between her fits, because she's doing it on purpose, like I said.
Yeah. But I pretty much pegged it down.
That is correct.
Okay.
Like I said, pencil in the areas that you know they're going to be going to.
Yeah. So, but of course even in a Star Wars game, that would put more prep time than what I'm usually used to, because of actually prepping, what they're going to be transporting, where they're going to be transporting to. So that's again, that's part of the reason why I broached this whole thing to you, is I'm trying to figure out what kind of prep work I'm going to have to start thinking about depending on which one they pick. And the Star Wars one, I was kind of a little. It's actually kind of interesting, because with the Star Wars one, when I was originally thinking of the idea, I was thinking something along. I think it was the Racket. I think you said the Rackus campaign was the one with the red eye.
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking of trying to do something similar to that. Something that wasn't.
Dark Campaign had the red eye.
Huh?
Dark Campaign had the red eye.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't Rackus. It was Dark Campaign. All right. I get I know those are your two big ones. I get them confused. But I was thinking of doing something similar, about kind of having a drug hit the market that screws with things. But I'm now starting to think that, at least to start with, that's still going too big. I'm really thinking of keep this new Star Wars idea kind of compartmentalized, at least to start with, kind of slowly allow them to start branching out galaxy wide, maybe keep it in a sector to start with.
Like I said, I mean, one of the greatest motivations is keeping it flying. I mean, at least for the first arc of your campaign, have it start out with them getting a ship, and then the first however long, while you build the team and you build your world a little bit, the whole idea is, how do they get enough money to pay back the crime lord, or how do they get enough money to fix it up?
Well, I just thought of one of two options. Either they have a decent ship, but they still owe money, or they own the ship, but it's a piece of crap.
both.
One way or the other, they have to get the money to either pay off or to keep.
And I've actually used both. Just keeping your ship, flying is incredibly important.
Yeah, and that was another thing I was going to do, because those who have been in my Star Wars campaigns before know that I use Clark Tech as a way of broaching issues, so that the player characters don't have to worry about it. Money usually being one of them once they get signed on. Now, granted, Clark usually is then like, I've got a mission for you, but so keeping their ship is usually something they don't have to worry about. I'm actually going to be toning Clark Tech back a lot for this one, so that they're going to have to count their pennies to keep that ship flying. You know, they're going to have to worry about, you know, the berthing fees, the tariff fees, the, you know, the taxes, the docking fees, the fuel, the repairs, the, you know, any modifications, you know, bribes, because, you know, if they're, you know, they're probably going to be traveling around someplace where the Empire, you know, bribes either to the Imperial or bribes to the, you know, to the crime lords. So yeah. Okay. Well, I do thank you for the advice. I'm actually going to kind of want to wrap this up. A, because your daughter's, you know, being annoying, and B, because the more I'm talking, the more my throat is starting to get to me. So.
But no, I mean, like I said, I mean, for I've done campaigns like that, and like I said, in that game, the most important thing to focus on is the ship itself.
Yeah,
you know,
because that is kind of the starting point.
That is the starting town. The ship is the starting town, you know, and its idiosyncrasies and its quirks, and you know what, you know, the Millennium Falcon. Everyone knows that it had a bad hyperdrive, or I mean, it had a good hyperdrive, but it was cantankerous. Well, what about their ship? Their ship, I mean, you can do, you know, the hyperdrive keeps failing, you know, but you could do something else, like for example, the drive's cut out, or like for example, it has bad wiring, or you know, maybe it's shields you have a tendency to go down, or maybe you know the sensors are glitchy, you constantly giving false alerts, and then when they do need them, you know things that make the ship unique, that make it, because and one of the things with the Serenity role playing game that I like is the idea is that treat the ship as a player character. Yeah.
They actually did that when they were writing the scripts for the episodes. The ship was the 10th character.
Right, and if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna do a non-force sort of like Serenity as Star Wars game, consider that the ship is one of the characters, and probably
but at least
the most iconic.
Make that one.
Yes,
so
but
planning.
One of the most iconic, actually. I mean, look, the Millennium Falcon was a character in Star Wars. I mean, and a very iconic one. I mean, always given trouble, but you know, came through in a clutch every time.
Yep, and I love how in the Star Wars D6 revised and expanded rulebook from West End Games, they had stats for some generic transports, for some generic ships that you might run across, like a Star Destroyer, X-Wings, Y-Wings. They had a stock YT-1300, and then they had the Millennium Falcon stats. Mind you, they did not have the stats for any other canon character in that book. They mentioned the canon characters all the time. But you have the Falcon. But you had the Falcon stats. You didn't have Hans, you didn't have Luke's, but you had the Falcon stats.
Because the Falcon is just as iconic as Han Solo.
Yep.
Right.
So. Alrighty. Well, this ending might seem a little rushed, but it kind of is. So. Oh, I almost forgot. Okay. So. Jorge has emailed. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm waiting for you to tell me what the email says.
Well, I'm only going to be able to do part of it to start with, unless you want me to read the whole bloody thing.
Skip to the important parts.
Well, so he messaged me on Facebook. He's like, check your email. And I was like, yeah, will do. And of course, I forgot when we started recording until just now. But he's like, hello, greetings from Spain. I have attached an audio file, but just in case my accent were not easily understandable, there is a transcript below. Thank you for the new season, Jorge. And he actually goes on this, and he's actually got a couple of paragraphs. I mean, do you want me to read it?
Hell yeah.
All right. So he's like, hello, Ropai Gamma. Welcome back to the net. Excuse me, Forma. I guess it's supposed to be from being so late. Anyway. Oh, this is interesting. I've just listened to episode 1 to 6. This may. Okay, reading this transcript is a little odd considering, but this may turn being some of a rant. So Byron, if you want to put it into the podcast, feel free to cut and edit. Which I might do. I might actually post the. Might have to listen to the audio file itself, and then maybe.
Is this a good email?
Huh? I don't know.
All right, keep reading.
I have to say, I'm reading it as I'm reading it. I'm very excited about this new season because Ropai Gamma, it's for me not only friendly voices, it's actually improved my life by way of example. Some time ago, I was listening to the season 5 last episode and asked myself a typical Rope Pie question. What have you been doing in gaming? The answer was appalling. Nothing. Oh, dear God. Jorge, why? I've been doing nothing in gaming for years. Oh, that's bringing a tear to my eye. So I decided,
like, I feel that one on, dude. Like, that hits me right in the field.
Yes, that does. So I decided the time was due for keeping my dice rolling. I gathered some friends. We agreed on a game setting, and we've been gaming for a year and a half and enjoying greatly.
Nice.
I am a happier gamer now thanks to a Oh man, this is bringing me to tears. I am a happier gamer now thanks to a podcast that made me realize that I lack something in my life. So thank you, Byron. Thank you, Liz, Howard, and all the others that have taken a part in the podcast. I am literally crying right now.
Dude, this is awesome. This is our first fan mail.
Yes, it is. I mean, we've gotten emails from friends, but this is the first person that we have met through the podcast. Everyone else we've gotten mail from we knew before the podcast.
I'm curious what game he's playing.
I don't know, but this gets better. Howard, about running a game for me. Wow. Thank you for the offer. There is a problem, though. I can read English quite well, and I can write and speak more or less, but I am lacking for the listening department. Really, I have listened to each of the end of session games, and I found quite difficult to follow the story. Oh. Me playing in English would equal to misunderstanding country. Nevertheless, if any of you host a hangout game or similar, I would feel honored to assist as a guest spectator. And that is all I think. Roll high, play well, die hard. Oh, man.
He's from Spain, right?
Yeah, he's from Spain.
Huh. There's a way.
Oh, hell.
There's a way. Jorge, if you're listening to this, I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it'll happen. But what you may not know is my father's a native speaker. Spanish, French, English, Italian, and German, equally fluent. It's possible.
Oh, that'll make things interesting. Trying to game through a translator.
It's possible he knows enough about gaming to be able to do the lingo. It's a question of would he have time and would he be willing? There's a possibility.
Knowing your dad, if both of us approached him about it, he'd be willing. The time is the issue.
It would be interesting. I'm gonna have to broach the subject with him because this would break some serious new ground. But in theory, if he was on hand, and I was, if we were, speaking and doing it in person. Mm-hmm. And if Jorge ended up having a question that needed, translation in directly from Spanish, of course, my father's Spanish is Spanish. It's Castilian, or Castilian, whatever it is. It's from actual. He learned the traditional. Or I don't say traditional, but like
Mother Spanish.
Mother Spanish. Like we speak English, but we speak American English. He speaks Spanish, not
he speaks
Spain English versus Mexican English or any of the South American dialects. I mean, he is an actual native speaker. Theoretically speaking, if Jorge had any specific questions and my father was on hand, then he could ask my father in Spanish, and I could it's possible that my father might be willing to extra translate it for us. And my dad, I've been wanting to get my dad to watch me role play at least once in his life. This may be the perfect opportunity. I don't know if he'll agree to it. And of course, timing's an issue because I know, it would have to be late for us, early for Jorge. Mm-hmm. But I will definitely, we're talking about breaking ground.
Mm-hmm.
Holy hell.
Oh yeah. Jorge's done a lot for us. Whether you remember or anyone realize, Jorge's actually done a lot for us in the past before. I mean, there was one point in time when we started going to YouTube, I wasn't editing, with MP3s, and he brought up, he really wished that we still had MP3s because that's how he listened to us, and I made the comment I'd see what I can do, and either I got lazy or forgot, or half a dozen other things possibly have happened, knowing me. And so finally he took it upon himself to just go ahead and do it and then sent me all the files. So that's actually that's one of the reasons why I'm recording and editing like I am now, is so that there is still an MP3 file accessible that I can put up on the site for him.
Jorge, if you're listening, we're going to try to make it happen, dude. I don't know if it's possible. I can't guarantee.
Dude, okay. Well, first and foremost, I am glad to hear that the podcast has actually helped another gamer. Even if it's
Amen
just
to that,
fucking
brother.
one other gamer, I am ecstatic to hear that.
Hey, by the way, Jorge, every time we end a season and he starts waffling on whether to start up the next season, I'm going to bring up this podcast. I'm literally going to get a clip of this podcast, and every time he starts to flake out on
I just
me,
forwarded you the email with the transcripts.
I'm totally just going to play this email. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to email him a transcript of this podcast, and then just wait for his response.
Yeah, I think I've pretty much made my bed, and I'm gonna have to lay in it now.
Yes, you are.
Oh, but I am so glad to hear that he is gaming again. Though I have not experienced the whole haven't gamed in years because, God's damn it, I won't let myself. I've run across a bunch of friends who have.
Yeah.
And I always do what I can to try to get him back into gaming. Jay, I brought him in as the NPC in the Epic game. Salo for the longest time hadn't been gaming. And I helped introduce him to some people with much more flexible schedules than me. So he's gaming with them a lot now. So, but, man, dude, I'm so glad I remembered this. I'm gonna definitely listen to the audio clip, and either I'll post it up on the blog, or I might do a special edit. Well, we'll definitely have to see what we can do. We'll definitely have to see what we can do. I mean, there's a couple of options that we got.
I would love if you could forward me the whole email. I'd love to listen to it myself. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I sent you I forwarded you the whole email with transcript and the file and all.
Awesome.
So,
but yeah, dude, Jorge, we love you, man. We really do, and I'm glad to hear that you're into gaming. Glad to hear that we were able to help.
Yeah.
And
dude. Again, like Howard said, what are you playing? How are your groups? I mean, how are the games going? You said you've been doing it for a year and a half now. I mean, come on, details, man. Don't leave us hanging like that.
Yeah, dude. We'd love to feature your game on RoPie, man.
Hell yeah. I mean, hell, I'd still like to have him just on as a
guest,
as a guest and interview and shit. I mean,
heck yeah.
Gaming notwithstanding, although, as much as you may not like to hear us, we really should consider a season finale here at some point, but we can discuss that later.
Definitely, we'll discuss it later.
Because I've already got an idea. You brought it up a little while ago, and I've got an idea what I want to do for the season finale for this year.
Cool.
So all right. Anyway, so like Jorge, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, or what the fucks, you can email us at gmropiegamma@gmail.com, if I'm remembering my own bloody email right. Let me double check. Yeah, gmropiegamma@gmail.com. Yep. You can tweet us, but I unfortunately I got a new phone and stuff, so I need to get back access to Twitter again. So if you
good Twitter.
Yeah, I tweet very okay. No.
Very okay. Yeah.
But you can comment on the blog or on the YouTube videos. Unfortunately, it might take us a little bit to. You can also catch us on Facebook. It might take us a little bit to actually get to them because, unfortunately, this is a labor of love, and Howard and I have bills to pay. But we will definitely get to them at some point. And then we can feature them if you want. So yeah. Thank you for joining us this week. Hope everyone has, those in the U.S., hope they have a happy Thanksgiving. For those that don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I still hope you have a wonderful holiday season, or weekend, or whatever you do, because actually, some of the people in my Lucky 13 group don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but that's also their wedding anniversary, so yay. So find a Life Day. If you don't do Thanksgiving, have a beautiful Life Day.
Oh, by the way, if anyone does do Life Day, we're doing ours on the 12th of December, but if anyone does Life Day, let me know. I'd love to get this thing going. It would be a great gamer holiday. Totally apolitical, a-religious, just a good time for gamers to get fat together and play awesome games.
So now, there probably will not be an episode next week.
Yeah.
Because of the fact of with the Thanksgiving coming up, and I'm not going to be home. So, but we will definitely see what we can do. So like I said, there most likely won't be one next week, although with us, the way we've been recording recently, there might still, I don't know, we'll just have to see. So anyway, I have been your GM Byron.
I've been in your co-host Howard, and Evie is asleep finally.
Of course, as we're ending. And just remember the motto of Pi Gamma is roll high,
Roll high,
play well,
play well,
die hard.